Okay, so let me just explain it again from the top, since I didn't have my headset on. Okay, so these two sections are just wrapped up string that allow for me to manually rotate the motor output shaft forward and backwards. And they go through these two springs, which just add some tension because they're being pinched here, so that when you're pulling one, the other one is a nice tight wrap onto it. When you're pulling this one will be being wrapped tightly because of the tension created by these. Um, and then this section, which is currently empty, we were using to act as the driver to winch in fishing line, which then turned this one, this black one here. But the issue is that when it's winching it in, things are going to be really tight and taut, and everything's good. But when the motor reverses direction, it's releasing tension. It tends to derail off of this pulley because it's giving it slack. So you need to have something that's keeping this thing tense at all times. And my concern is that that may fail. So I was going to have like a tension spring, a tension coil spring, like the same used in the tape measure, to place constant tension onto this pulley with the string between two pulley discs up here I was going to have, and the spring maybe I was going to mount like to the bottom of the motor, so it would be like pulling on some string at all times with constant tension to cause this thing to always be pulling away from the motor shaft, so that as the motor shaft starts to release string when it turns in reverse, this will be kept nice and taut, and it will tightly wrap that releasing string onto this pulley. Everything will be good. But to use that type of spring, which I had bought them and everything. Here's one of those springs in the bag. You can't really see the spring through the bag, but you can just see I have it already on hand. Um, I felt like that would be like a lot of springs to buy and kind of a headache to get those springs working. And fortunately, I came up with an easier way. A colleague of mine was mentioning down gearing using belts with pulleys, and I had people mention belts in the past, but I was always picturing like the long belt that just goes from like a motor at the base of a robot, like an industrial robot arm, and it has like teeth on it. It's a huge belt. It goes all the way to the end effector, and that's what I was picturing. But I was not picturing like a tiny belt between little pulleys mounted on top of the motor, like all super downscale. That didn't even pop in my head at all when people spoke of belts. I didn't even know you could make belts that small. I hadn't even thought of that. Never crossed my mind. So now that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to have a belt span from the motor output shaft to this first pulley. And because the size differential, this should be like a 2.5 to 1 down gear right off the bat. And then we'll have this topmost section of pulley winching in string. Now the motor's like 0.4 pounds of pulling force right off the bat. So since we're 2.5ing that, let's just say we're 2xing that, that would be 0.4 times 2, that'd be zero point 0.8. Maybe it'd be about a pound. Um, so this will have a pound of pulling force placed onto this belt. So the belt doesn't have to be that beefy or that big or that strong. It's only going to have 1 pound of force on it. And then this string will translate, the string that this top part will winch in will pass through tubing and reach all the way to our Archimedes pulley system on the forearm, which will then begin further down gearing until we get up to an additional 16 to 1. Adding to this 2 to 1 will be a total of 32 to 1 down gearing. But this preliminary down gearing makes the Archimedes system easier to design because there's less run out of string to deal with. So I wanted to start the down gearing here at the motor. So anyways, we built a little pulley already, or we built a little belt-based pulley on here yesterday, and it worked pretty good. But one issue I had was that it was slipping a little too much on the motor shaft for my comfort. And so I'm going to wrap the motor shaft in nitrile rubber glove tape that I made here. It's just adhesive transfer tape, 300 LSE by 3M, mounted onto a piece of nitrile rubber glove, and I just cut it out in little strips about 1.5 millimeters in width, and then I'm going to wrap that around the motor output shaft to make the motor output shaft a little bit beefier in diameter and have more grippiness to it. And I have to make sure to wrap it counterclockwise so that when the motor turns clockwise, it won't want to unravel this tape, it's going to want to tighten the tape so that we don't have to worry about unraveling this. So I'm just going to go a few layers thick. It'll thicken it up in diameter, which will give more surface area for the pulley to grab onto by making it a little bit bigger of an output shaft. But we don't want it too much bigger because we want to go small to big to small. That's how you get the 2-to-1 down here. So it can't be like anywhere near this big. Obviously, it has to be well, like ideally significantly less than half the diameter of this pulley that we're going over to. I'm going to make sure that this is like 2x the diameter of that at least. But it looks like it might be more than 2x. I don't know. It might be like 3x. This might be a 3-to-1 down here. I haven't done measurement yet, but I've just spent for calculation saying it's 2-to-1. But it looks like it might be closer to 3-to-1. But that all depends on how thick the string is going to be wrapping on this top part, because that can actually remove some of the gear. If you use too thick of a string on here, and it's thickly wrapped, and it's near the size of the bottom part, then you kind of lose that mechanical advantage you just gained. So anyways, that's the first step, is I'm going to be cutting out some nitrile rubber glove tape and wrapping it around this piece of shaft here and beefing it up and making it grippy. The nitrile rubber glove has some texture to it, and that adds to the grip as well. So you can see here, it's got some texture on it. That'll add to grippiness. And then the belt itself is going to be made out of the nitrile rubber glove. The other issue I had with the pulley I made yesterday for this was it was a little bit too stretchy, so it needed more layers to thicken up and have more toughness to it. And it was sliding a little bit too much on the motor output shaft because the motor output shaft was just smooth metal, so it wasn't grippy enough. So I'm resolving those issues. Oh, and another thing, the pulley belt needs to be very tight so it doesn't have so much slippage. And I didn't make it tight enough. The first wrap especially needs to be nice and tight. So I need to do that better this next attempt. Okay. So I started out making a nice straight line with my ruler onto here. You can see I marked 2 spots. There's one little spot there and one little spot there, and then I drew a line across at the correct width. Now I'm going to cut it out carefully using my visor to magnify everything. You thought I quit the robot? No, I didn't quit. Well, okay, maybe I took like breaks, but I don't think I ever announced like I'm officially 100% quitting. I should switch to Kick. I could stream using StreamYard, and I could multi-stream to Kick and YouTube and Twitch all at once. That'd be kind of a cool idea. I hadn't thought of it because I just have my OBS set up and just I don't think about it, but that would be a good idea to stream to every platform to get more audience. It's a good idea. I might have to look into that. Unless you can set up OBS to do that, to just multi-stream a bunch of stuff. But I have the older version of OBS. OBS It doesn't support Windows 7 unless we use one of the older versions, so I wouldn't be able to upgrade anyways to a modern version, I don't think, unless this version has that. If you want some entertaining reading material, you could check out EEV blog, where I posted my project. The past few months I've been posting updates there and getting a lot of engagement there. I racked up 55,000 views on one thread. My other thread there had like 12,000 views, and over like it might have been 1,500 comments on one thread. And so it was like really trending. It was the most popular thread on their forum history. Um, but I got banned because EEV blog, the guy that runs it, said that I was causing too much friction. Even though I didn't break any rules, I was basically like, say I'm the best roboticist. My robot's going to put every other robot to shame. And it's like, people want to learn about robots, they need to listen to me. And just kind of talking smack like that. I started talking smack because they started it. They started saying I'm the worst roboticist. I'm not even worthy to be called a roboticist. All this stuff. So then I just started talking stuff back to them. And after I did that, they got like really angry, and then someone doxed me, and I reported them for doxing me, and that's when I got banned. So I got doxed and I got banned. I got banned for reporting someone doxing me, which is kind of crazy. Like the guy that doxed me, I don't even think is banned, but I got banned for being doxed because they felt like I deserved, or I instigated their user base to start becoming that aggressively inappropriate and hostile. It was my fault for like defending myself against bullying, but I don't see it that way. I don't think I should be the one punished at all. Anyone doing the bullying should be warned and whatnot, not the person being bullied. Like, why do you punish someone for being bullied? It's ridiculous. So I think it was a bad call, but it is what it is. It's frustrating though, because I was getting like 8 comments every single day, if not more, which I was enjoying. It kind of like was nostalgic because I used to get people talking to me in chat on Twitch and stuff, so it's kind of like that again, but on a forum instead of a chat room. Okay, so the motor's going to turn. Looking down at it, it'd be turning counterclockwise. So we need to go clockwise. So no. Alright, and then I'll do a pinch of super glue on the very tip so it doesn't come off by accident. Just seal it off. Okay, perfect. Forgot about that. Yeah. That time I kind of got it. So now let's see. Seems pretty good. Looks pretty good. I don't know. It's already kind of good, but I just don't know. I need to test more before I feel confident. What's up, Richard? I'm struggling a bit right now. I might want to switch to silicone. I think I'm gonna switch. These are a little too stretchy and weird. Oh, this is tiny. I don't know, boys. I don't know. It's still very stretchy. And it's slipping a lot. When I put very little pressure braking it, the motor starts to turn without the big pulley turning. That's my issue. In other words, it kind of seems like a failure at this point. It's not far though. I just need a stiffer rubber. And maybe to sew that stiffer rubber. Maybe. That's hard. I mean, this stuff is tiny. It's easier said than done. Sewing in here, man. It's so tiny. What's like a thin, non that stretchy rubber that I could use for this? Maybe shrink wrap? Alright, boys, I'm gonna call it here. I'm gonna let the silicone dry too, and then look into maybe tightening it more. It's the best I can come up with for now. It's done for this session.